Welcome back, everybody. Today I have a video which is essentially a follow-up impression. I've been wanting to talk about this brand since I got back from Exons back in March. I came home with a few samples from a house called J.U.S. Parfum, J.U.S. So it's not, I don't. Maybe people call it J.U.S, but I'm going to refer to it as J.U.S, and I'll put down what that acronym stands for on the screen here. There were a few perfumes that I tried, and before I talk about the one I'm doing an impressions video of today, I want to say that there was one particular perfume, and probably its best known perfume, called Coffees, and I wasn't able to get a sample because I didn't have any at the time. But that one there, for anyone searching, that never-ending search for that coffee perfume, that's probably come as close as it's going to get to at least my ideal coffee perfume. I still don't know if I want a bottle of that, but if you're after coffee and you enjoy wearing it, it's definitely worth checking out. I'm going to leave links to their website in the description. So obviously, full disclosure, the people at the stand in Exons gave me a few samples, and I didn't really have a choice. But the one I want to talk about today is called Andaluiza. Now, for some reason, unsurprisingly, on Fragrantica, they've spelled it as Andaluiza, which I'm sure is not correct. I've got the official sample here from J.U.S. This is Andaluiza. Now, basically what I'm going to do is spray it on and describe what I'm smelling while the notes are up on the screen, because I haven't I've had a look at the note pyramid, but I haven't memorized it in any way. And what I will say, when I smelled this for the first time, this reminded me of a particular perfume. Now, smelling it again now, I can still get those similarities, but it is slightly different. I get a very creamy citrus opening, but it's more fruity than citrus, and so there is like an orange tinged part of that fruit, but overall it's kind of fizzy and creamy, and it reminded me the first time I smelled this and of a perfume that I actually used to own, and I've also got a review of it. It's from Mugler. This is part of the Amen series, Ultra Zest, which I'm pretty sure has now been discontinued. I no longer own that perfume, but while I owned it, I really enjoyed liking it, kind of loving it, and I kind of just grew out of that style of perfume. But the first time I sprayed this on, I immediately thought about that perfume. So this is slightly different in that it's less orange. It's more like, I know that there is a pomegranate note in here, although I can't sit here and say I'm smelling pomegranate because I don't eat pomegranate that much, and I wouldn't be overly familiar with something on my skin that immediately reminded me of it. Suffice to say that it's more fruity than citrus fruity. There is a big dose of tonka here, so that's where most of the sweetness is coming from, and this is probably why it reminds me of Ultra Zest, because Ultra Zest was basically a creamy orange sort of. I think I remember describing it like an orange popsicle kind of dessert thing, and it was really nice smell. And this is definitely in that line. So after a few minutes now, that initial fruitiness and brightness sort of blends into the background. And then the tonka, you know, the sweeter. There's something in here. It's hard to describe. It's really, it kind of really just becomes thick and velvety. And I'm not sure if I'm giving the impression that I really like it or I don't quite like it. I mean, it's really nice, and that's the reason I wanted to talk about this one in particular. Especially if when we're talking about similarities to popular perfumes that are now very difficult to get and are really expensive to find secondhand on eBay or whatever. So this one is really nice, and the day I sprayed it on months ago, it lasted several hours on my skin. It does not develop very much. So I would categorize this in the sort of fruity gourmand kind of style, which obviously is not for everybody. I think it's completely unisex, by the way, like Ultra Zest was. I find the issue when there is heavy tonka use in a perfume formula. After a while, it can get fatiguing to smell, and this is obviously personal to my nose. So I think that this, for me, you know, if I'm wearing this regularly, it seems like the type of perfume that I could easily sort of get a little bit bored or tired of. But I did want to mention this house because there's a couple of interesting things that they do. And I'll test the other ones that I have as well, because you know, from what I remember smelling, they were pretty good, and I do recall. I mean, this brand was one of the first brands I tested properly when I was there, and at the time I was pretty impressed with them. But as always, it always pays off to, you know, in that environment, it's really hard to make initial judgments that will stick after a while. I'll test this a bit further. Remember, this is just first impressions, but they do a couple of interesting things. For starters, their packaging on their website is refillable. They come in 25 ml for, I think, a pretty reasonably priced €60. They come 25 ml, 100 ml, and 200 ml sizes. Obviously, you can order discovery sets as well. They're based in France, and they use a variety of perfumers to do their perfumes. So they're worth checking out. I don't see a lot of talk about them on social media, which leads me to believe that they're not out there sending a whole bunch of free bottles to influencers, or at least if they are, I have not seen any of those videos. But certainly an interesting brand. I do really like the packaging. So that all the bottles are in this kind of design, but just different colouring. And this one, you know, this one's like perfectly pleasant, but I think given that they're not ridiculously priced, definitely worth trying if you're wanting to discover a new brand, some interesting concepts. The other interesting thing that I really appreciate about this brand is their transparency in terms, and like this is kind of a bit of a subject of discourse in fragrance circles at the moment about the transparency of brands. Now, if you go onto their website and you click on each perfume, they actually have a graphic, like a picture of the formula that was used for each perfume. So there's no secrets about what's in them. If you can decipher the handwriting, you can see exactly what ingredients, what materials were used for, and in what quantity were used for each perfume on their website. So if nothing else, just for a bit of interest and learning a little bit behind what goes into a brand like this, just check out the website. Free reading, free information about perfume formulas, and if it interests you, check them out. I'm going to definitely try out my other two samples. I have, I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, but this one is Andaluiza, perfectly pleasant perfume. I mean, it still smells good. It's still like, it just doesn't do much. It's very pleasant without doing too much. So if that kind of sounds like something you like, creamy, fruity, citrusy, at the top, at the very top, the creaminess and the sweetness comes from a combination of the fruit and the heavy tonka in the base. That's all I wanted to say, and I'll be back soon with another video. Hope you're all well. See you soon. Bye.